They thought you would crumble. They thought they could break you, bury you, silence you. They thought that if they pushed you hard enough, stripped you of everything, drowned you in the weight of their cruelty, you would fold. They believed you were fragile. They looked at you and saw someone who could be shattered, someone whose spirit could be crushed beneath the heel of their doubt, their mockery, their betrayal. They didn't see the fire inside you. They didn't know that pain does not destroy the strong. It awakens them. You have felt the weight of their judgment, haven't you? The whispers behind your back, the way they smiled to your face while secretly hoping for your downfall. The doors slammed in your face, the hands that should have lifted you but instead pushed you deeper into the dirt. You have tasted the bitterness of betrayal, the kind that rips the breath from your lungs, that makes you question if trust was ever real. You have stood alone in rooms full of people, feeling invisible, unheard, unwanted. They made you feel like you were nothing, and maybe for a moment you believed them. Maybe, in the silence of the night, you let their words sink into your skin. Maybe you looked in the mirror and saw only the reflection of their doubts, their cruelty, their laughter ringing in your ears. Maybe you told yourself they were right, that you weren't enough, that you never would be. You remember the moment, don't you? The moment the world went dark, the moment you stood at the edge of everything, looking down into the abyss, wondering if you should fall. It wasn't just sadness, it was exhaustion. Exhaustion from fighting battles no one knew about, from carrying wounds no one cared to see. You were drowning in it, suffocated by the weight of expectation, failures, and all the voices telling you that you would never rise. But let me tell you something. The ones who tried to break you never understood the depths of your spirit. They never knew that the darkness they threw you into would become your training ground. They never knew that the isolation, the suffering, the nights filled with nothing but your own screams would forge something unbreakable inside you. They never knew that you were never meant to be destroyed. You were meant to rise, because this is not the story of someone who was broken and left to rot. This is not the story of a soul defeated by cruelty. This is the story of a warrior, a survivor, a legend in the making. They thought they buried you, but they didn't know you were a seed. They thought they silenced you, but they didn't realize you were only gathering your breath before the roar. You were never meant to be ordinary. You were never meant to fit into their small, comfortable boxes. You were never meant to be weak. The suffering they inflicted, the pain you endured, the losses that left scars on your soul, all of it was fuel. And now, you are about to burn brighter than they ever imagined. This is where your story begins. Not in the moment they broke you, but in the moment you decided to rise. They stood against you, all of them. The ones who smirked when you stumbled, the ones who whispered behind closed doors, the ones who looked at you with doubt in their eyes, waiting for you to fail. They never believed in you. They never thought you would amount to anything. To them, you were a name to be forgotten, a shadow that would never step into the light. You were the underdog in their story, the one destined to lose. They ridiculed your dreams, mocked your ambitions, told you to be realistic, to stay in your place. They spoke with certainty, as if they had already decided your fate. They thought their words were weapons, sharp enough to cut through your resolve. But the worst enemy was never just them. It was the voice inside your own head, the voice that echoed their doubts in a whisper only you could hear, the voice that told you they might be right, that you weren't strong enough, smart enough, good enough, that no matter how hard you tried, you would never be more than what they saw you as. It wasn't their words that cut the deepest. It was the way you started to believe them, the way self-doubt wrapped its fingers around your throat, choking the fight out of you, convincing you that maybe it was better to quit. Before you humiliated yourself trying, failure became a familiar taste, bitter and constant. You tried and you failed. You reached and you fell short. Doors slammed shut before you could even knock. Every step forward felt like sinking deeper into quicksand. Every effort met with rejection, disappointment, exhaustion. You gave everything, and it still wasn't enough. The world felt like it was closing in, pressing against your chest, making it harder to breathe, harder to move, harder to believe that this battle was even worth fighting. And then came the moment when quitting felt like the only logical choice, when the weight became too heavy, when the exhaustion turned into apathy, when the fire inside you flickered so dimly that you wondered if it would ever burn again. The moment you sat in the silence, stared at everything you had tried to build, and asked yourself if it was time to let go, if it was time to accept that maybe they were right, that maybe you were never meant to rise. But something inside you refused to die. Something inside you, buried beneath the rubble of doubt and failure, clenched its fists and whispered, "Not yet." It wasn't loud. It wasn't triumphant. It was small, fragile, but undeniable. It was the part of you that had survived every storm, every betrayal, every moment of despair. It was the part of you that still believed, even when you didn't want to. They thought they had won. They thought they had beaten you into submission, silenced your fight, crushed your spirit beneath the weight of their expectation. But they didn't understand that real strength isn't about never falling. It's about refusing to stay down. You were bleeding, battered, bruised, but you were still breathing. And as long as there was breath in your lungs, this war wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The fire was meant to consume you. It was meant to turn you to ashes, to leave nothing behind but the remnants of what you once were. That was the plan, wasn't it? To see you crumble under the pressure, to watch you burn until there was nothing left. They expected you to be destroyed, to be reduced to a cautionary tale, another dreamer who flew too close to the sun, another soul swallowed by the flame. But fire does not destroy the ones who were born for it. Fire is a test. Fire is a teacher. It strips away the weak, the unnecessary, the illusions. It burns through the lies you were told about yourself, the doubts that were planted in your mind, the fears that held you hostage. Fire does not just take, it gives. It reshapes, it reforges, and you were forged in the flames. The nights when you thought you wouldn't make it, the moments when loneliness wrapped around you like a noose, the unbearable weight of your burdens. Those weren't punishments. They were the chisels carving something unbreakable inside you. Every scar, every tear, every sleepless night was a hammer strike, shaping you into something stronger than before. They thought the pain would break you, but they didn't realize pain does not break warriors. Pain makes them, because warriors are not born in comfort. Strength is not found in ease. The greatest souls, the ones who rise above, who stand unshaken when the world turns against them, are the ones who have walked through fire and refused to be consumed. The suffering did not weaken you. It revealed you. It showed you what you were made of. It showed you that even in the face of destruction, you endure. And that is why they will never understand you. That is why they will never see you coming. Because while they feared the fire, you walked into it. While they ran from pain, you faced it. While they cowered in the shadows, you stepped into the flames and let them forge you into something unstoppable. You are not a victim of the fire. You are its master. And now you burn with a light they can never extinguish. There comes a day in every warrior's life when the battle is no longer against the world, but against themselves. A day when the choice is clear. Remain in the ashes or rise from them. It is not a loud moment. There's no applause, no grand declaration. It happens in the silence, in the depths of suffering, in the place where hope has been reduced to embers. It happens in the moment when the weight of everything crashes down, and yet something inside refuses to break. You remember that moment, don't you? The day when you looked at your reflection, at the exhaustion in your eyes, at the scars of every battle you fought, and something in you snapped, not in surrender, but in defiance, not in weakness, but in a quiet, unshakable decision. Enough, enough of the self-doubt, enough of letting them define you, enough of waiting for someone to save you, enough of believing the lie that you were not meant to rise. The first step forward was not easy. It never is. It was small, uncertain, heavy with the weight of everything you had carried. But it was a step, and that was enough. Because a step turns into another, and soon, what was once impossible becomes inevitable. Soon the one who was beaten, broken, and left behind becomes the one who refuses to stay down. That decision, that single quiet moment, changed everything. It was not the world that made you stronger. It was not luck, nor fate, nor mercy. It was you. It was the choice to rise when every part of you wanted to stay down. It was the choice to fight when surrender seemed so much easier. It was the choice to claim your own power, your own destiny, your own story. And that choice, that was the moment you stopped being a victim. That was the moment you became something else, something they never expected, something unstoppable. They never saw it coming. The ones who laughed when you fell, who whispered behind your back, who shook their heads and said you would never make it. They thought your story had already been written. They thought they had buried you beneath their doubt, their rejection, their indifference. To them, you were finished, a lost cause, a fading memory of someone who tried and failed. They underestimated you. They thought their words would break you. They thought their absence would weaken you. They thought their betrayal would leave you too shattered to ever rebuild. They never believed you had the strength to rise, but they didn't realize that every time they pushed you down, they were only fueling the fire inside you. Every doubt, every rejection, every time they turned their backs on you. It didn't destroy you. It sharpened you. It made you ruthless in your pursuit, relentless in your hunger, unshakable in your resolve. And now, they have to watch as the person they counted out, the person they dismissed, the person they swore would never stand again, is rising. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need to argue, to explain, to plead for their belief. You didn't need their validation. You proved them wrong the only way that matters, with action. You turned your pain into power, your setbacks into stepping stones. You didn't just rise. You became unstoppable. And now, the same voices that once mocked you have fallen silent. The same people who doubted you are forced to watch in stunned disbelief, because the one they thought would never make it is now the one they can't ignore. They thought they could break you. They thought they could stop you, but they never understood the truth. You became unstoppable because they tried to stop you. You are not the same. The person they tried to break no longer exists. The one who once questioned their worth, who once bent beneath the weight of doubt and fear, who once let the world dictate their limits, that person is gone. In their place stands something unrecognizable, something forged in pain and fire, something unstoppable. You have transformed, not just survived, but evolved, not just endured, but conquered. They don't understand what they're looking at now. They don't recognize the fire in your eyes, the steel in your spine, the unshakable force that refuses to back down. They thought they knew you, but they only knew the version of you that hadn't been tested, that hadn't been pushed to the edge, that hadn't yet discovered the depth of their own power. Because real strength is not loud. It does not beg for attention. It does not need validation. It is built in silence, in struggle, in the moments when no one is watching. And you have built something indestructible inside you. The resilience to stand when the world says you should fall. The fire to keep going when everything tells you to stop. The willpower to carve your own path, no matter how many obstacles are thrown in your way. They tried to measure your strength in their term. They thought power was about control, about intimidation, about dominance. They never understood that real strength is endurance, the ability to take the worst the world has to offer and keep moving forward, to rise every time you are knocked down, to stand unshaken when the storm rages around you. And that is why they never saw this coming. That is why they never expected you to rise, because they only saw your struggle. They never saw your unbreakable will. But now, they will. Now they have no choice, because the strength inside you is no longer hidden. It is undeniable, it is unstoppable, and it is yours. You used to fear the storm. You used to shrink beneath its weight, bracing for the inevitable collapse. The winds of doubt, the rain of rejection, the thunder of their voices telling you that you would never be enough. You cowered, thinking the storm would swallow you whole. You waited for it to pass, praying for mercy, hoping for an end to the relentless chaos. But something changed. Somewhere in the fire, somewhere in the pain, you stopped fearing the storm because you realized something they never expected. You are the storm. The same winds that once tore you apart now carry your name. The same darkness that once threatened to drown you now moves at your command. You no longer run from the storm. You are the force that shakes the ground. And now, the ones who tried to bury you feel the shift in the air. They see it in the way you walk, in the way you no longer seek permission, in the way you move through the world like a force of nature. They once saw you as weak, fragile, a victim of circumstances beyond your control. Now they see the truth. You have become something untouchable, something unstoppable. You are no longer prey. You are no longer at the mercy of their words, their judgments, their expectations. You do not wait for approval. You do not ask for space. You take it. You walk with the power of someone who has been to the edge of destruction and returned stronger than ever. They don't speak your name with mockery anymore. They whisper it with caution because they know they can't break you. They can't control you. They can't stop you. They thought you would drown in the storm, but instead you became. You were never meant to just survive. You were never meant to scrape by, to exist in the shadows, to be another forgotten name swallowed by failure. No, your story was always destined for more, because you didn't just endure the war, you won it, and now the world will know your name. The ones who doubted you, who laughed at you, who walked away when you needed them most, now they watch in silence, not with pity, not with amusement, but with something they never expected to feel when they looked at you. Fear. They fear what you've become, because they can no longer control you. They can no longer dismiss you. You rise, not as the broken version they tried to leave behind, but as something unrecognizable, something undeniable. You carry the weight of every battle, every scar, every moment of pain, but not as wounds, as proof that nothing could break you, proof that every struggle had a purpose, proof that you are not just here. You are here to dominate, and you do not rise for yourself alone. You rise for every soul who was cast aside, for every warrior who was told they were not enough, for every fighter still trapped in the darkness, searching for a way out. Your strength is not just yours. It is a beacon, a message to the world that pain does not define you, that suffering is not the end of the story, that no matter how deep they try to bury you, you will rise. Your scars do not tell a story of defeat. They are not symbols of loss, of weakness, of failure. They are the marks of survival, the signatures of every battle you refused to lose, the undeniable proof that nothing, not doubt, not pain, not even the weight of the entire world, was enough to stop you. And now they will remember you, not as the one who was broken, not as the one who almost made it, but as the one who could not be destroyed. They thought they could break you. They thought they could crush your spirit, silence your fire, bury you beneath the weight of their doubt. They thought you would stay down, that the wounds would be too deep, that the fight would be too much. But they were wrong, because you didn't just survive. You didn't just make it through. You built yourself into something they never saw coming. A champion, not the kind that stands on stages for applause, not the kind that seeks validation or approval. No, you are something far greater. You are the warrior who walked through the fire and emerged unscathed, the force that refused to surrender, refused to break, refused to let this world define you. This victory is not about proving them wrong. It is not about revenge. It is about you, about the mastery of your own mind, your own strength, your own power. It is about knowing, without a shadow of a doubt, that nothing can take you down. Not failure, not betrayal, not even the darkest nights when you felt like giving up. Because now you know the truth. They never had the power to break you. The power was always yours. And now the world will not just remember you. It will never forget you. Because your story is no longer one of struggle. It is one of triumph, a testament to resilience, to willpower, to the unshakable force of someone who refused to be defeated. But this is not the end. No, this is just the beginning. Because now that you have risen, now that you have built yourself into something indestructible, there is only one thing left to do. Go, show the world what you were made for.